All right, so thank you so much for joining this session. Very much happy having you here. And for knowing you have 70, you've been in the game for 17 years, that's a whole lot. So
Yes.
can you tell me much about how you started, the tools you used, and probably where you work?
Yes. So I actually started as a technical writer from a support perspective. So I actually started in the biotech field right at the height of the Human Genome Project. So most of my experience has been in the biotechnology space. And I started out supporting sequencing customers. So I was reviewing the technical documentation of the technical publications group at the time, reviewing it from a user's perspective and, providing feedback and changes to the documentation from what I was learning from talking to customers in the field. So I actually got started because the managers in that group at the time really appreciated the feedback that I was giving the writers. So it wasn't just open-ended questions, it was actually, specific changes and suggestions, and they appreciated that constructive feedback and really thought that I could make a difference in how they were crafting the documentation, having been a customer of the sequencing systems first and then supporting customers using them. And so now I could start writing the documentation for those customers as well. So that's how I started in the technical publications field as a former scientist turned scientific support turned writer.
So what year?
Gosh, that was 2000, 2000 actually, when I started in the company, not as a writer, but as a they called them application scientists at the time.
So as at then, were you working with paper?
You mean the tools that we were using?
Yeah. So did you work on paper, write on paper, or
Oh no, we had word processing at the time. I think we the transition from like Word Perfect, which is old, to Word had happened. So some of the content was made in Word. We were also using unstructured frame because structured frame wasn't on offer yet. So it was just FrameMaker. That was probably one of the primary tools that we were using at the time before structured authoring and Dida came onto the scene.
okay. So do you have any chance to work with some software engineers?
I actually did do some application support for our sequencing analysis software. So I actually worked with algorithms development people, software development people, and this was specifically for analyzing the data that was coming off of the sequencing instruments.
Yeah. So how was the experience? Because I know people complain about, engineers back then, they try to feel like they're God because they're the one doing the coding and the field is just writing.
I actually had a really good experience with the algorithms developers. In particular, uh, they they were really supportive of trying to explain what they were doing to me, so I could then kind of change that into language that a customer would understand. Some of their explanations were a little too much. But you could distill it down into, okay, so what's the key pieces of information that the customer needs to know? Why are we
Yeah.
using the algorithm this way? What are you getting from that? And what are the parameters that you can change? So I actually haven't had the negative reactions that some others may have with software
Don't
development groups. I mean, everybody's pushed for time, and unfortunately, technical writing deliverables are not high on the list of people's responsibilities. And so uh, you kind of have to really uh, make your case and stress the importance of, well, if the customer doesn't get the information that they need to be successful, then you're just going to get support calls, and that cost burden is going to come down the line. So you got to be tenacious as a technical writer, very much so.
Yeah, sure. Is there any technology or any tools that brought fear to the technical writing space, just like AI is doing right now, that, hey, it's going to take our jobs?
I think the advent of content management systems and the efficiencies that brought, um, I think um, selling selling the advantages of implementing a CCMS, for example, to upper management. There's a fine line that you have to walk in promoting the efficiencies without um, having them jump to the conclusion of, oh, we can do more with fewer people. It really is a tool that helps the the existing writers um, produce more engaging and sort of, you know, the content that a customer needs when they need it.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
but without cutting the team, the size of your team in the process,
Yeah,
because
sure.
that actually reduces efficiency.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So what has changed in the industry back then and right now? Because I know tools have changed, a few other stuff have changed. So the culture wise and tools and probably how we work.
I think the way I think the content delivery mechanisms have definitely changed back when I started. PDFs, that was it. PDFs are printed. You know, you would print, we would print and ship protocols with all of the reagent kits that we were selling and put PDFs on CDs at the same time. You didn't really have a lot of that content posted to the website. It was for like the paying customers use only. So it is such a vastly different content consumption experience than what we had back then. And it wasn't chunked into different pieces. It was, manual start to finish all in one, file. And now the content distribution, the content on demand, um, the way customers are receiving content is much more immediate.
Yeah, much, much better.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you talked about you got a job moving from the biochem down to technical writing.
Mhm.
So can you maybe walk me through the recruitment process and how it works then and what you think has changed now?
You're talking about the recruitment process?
Yes.
So I actually, well, I was headhunted from a laboratory in the East Coast to move into the application scientist role at Applied Biosystems. And again, that was the height of the Human Genome Project, and so there was a lot of funds to and a lot of growth opportunities in the field. I was then internally headhunted um, to move from the application scientist role into the technical writing role. Um, I think the recruitment process now, given the use of AI and automated tools, is very different. You need to stand out from a field of, literally hundreds, if not thousands of people that are being analyzed by algorithms. And so It's all about keywords, LinkedIn, either LinkedIn presence or social, whatever, professional social media that you're using, um, engagement, connections. Um, but even with that, I know that this the statistics are that your connections, even if it's the, second or third tier connections are what's going to get you into a new position rather than, that throwing your resume out, you know, hundreds of
Yeah,
times. So it's kind of a dichotomy, really, because
yeah,
it's almost similar to what I had experienced, before, which was it was who I knew, um, but with this sort of algorithmic analysis layered on top of it.
yeah. Because I think the last person I spoke to talked about phone calls.
Hmm.
That hiring process is not about phone calls. You just call on phone and you go
Yeah.
to the office.
Yeah, emails were not really the thing. It was all uh, yeah, phone calls or personal connections.
Yeah, personal connections. Yeah, that's what she said. All right. So, what advice do you have for the aspiring technical writers with your experience from what has changed in the past, what's brought fear to technical writers, the tools that have changed, and with the advent of AI too? So, what advice would you have for them?
Um, be curious. I know that the co-founder of LinkedIn, he had uh, a webinar recently on LinkedIn and coined the phrase, be AI curious. But I think I would generalize that to be curious. A technical writer wears many hats. We're kind of the Swiss Army knife of professions, really. I mean, you have to have a love of the craft and
Yeah,
or
sure.
love of the subject matter, really, to kind of thrive in this job. Um, you have to deal with disruptive technology all the time, because we're dealing in the digital space, right? And so
Mm.
that's disruptive technology always happens, and AI is, one of the latest. Um, we're researchers, we're editors, we're usability advocates, we're project managers, translation coordinators, we train, we mentor. We have to deal with creating visual content. We have to manage the tools that we use as well. So we have to troubleshoot our own tools, uh,
Yeah,
collaborate, keep up with compliance and standards and style and, understand content strategy and information architecture, audit websites. I mean,
yeah, a lot. It's a
there's
lot.
there's a lot, but it's, every day is something different, and it's an opportunity to learn or to teach. So it's never a dull moment, that's for sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
curious and be open to new perspectives, new ideas.
All right, sure. So the other speaker I spoke to talked about books that he loves reading books, and I think he gave a list of books to read to help. Are you also in that line of reading books and also advising people to read books? Physical books, not actually PDF.
Um, I have to I have to say that I'm far behind in my reading of physical books in the field. However, I was just talking to Sarah Johnson, and she just put out a new book called Content First Design, and I'm looking forward to reading that book and attending one of her courses. She's going to be integrating AI into the concept of this content first design.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm that's uh, something I've always been interested in is sort of how content is presented and how we consume it visually. I'm a
Yeah.
visual designer, and so I typically break down whatever procedures that I've been asked to craft. I usually break it down into a visual workflow, and that way I can understand how things are connected and where there may be gaps. And so um, the connectivity of information is a field that I'm really interested in.
Yeah, sure, sure, that's great. So concerning AI, because I know a lot has been said about AI.
Hmm.
uh, For me, I think I've had an experience where someone talked about he wrote a content, sent the content to the client quickly. The first thing the client did was to check if the content is AI generated or not.
Hmm.
That's the first thing they did. So they didn't check if the content was good, if the flow was fine, if it was accurate. They just checked if it was AI generated, and they said it's AI generated, and he said he wrote it himself. So
Right.
what's your say on that approach? So is it a good approach to just leave the quality of the content and just check if it's AI generated because AI is here?
I'm seeing people uh, posting about that. Writers posting about I submitted this either proposal or content to my client, and they ran this AI screening and said it was written by AI, and they're like, This was mine, yeah, all mine." Um, I think because these large language models were trained on content created by humans, um, these AI checking tools are, there's false positives in what they're returning
Yeah,
because the AI is the structure of the sentences, um, how they're linking words together is based on what other humans have already have originally put together, and so
yeah,
those AI checking tools are not accurate all the time. Uh,
yes.
so it shouldn't be the sole check um, for clients. I think that's an area that is probably more um, focus is going to be on, how accurate are these? Can we improve upon that? Because the livelihoods of real humans writing content are kind of being negatively affected by these automated screens.
Yeah,
It's for sure AI is a tool to get you to, a first draft of the ideas that you want to put in, but
yeah,
it
sure.
shouldn't be writing your entire
Yeah,
that is not the goal. That is not, the purpose. It is getting you to that ideation, that first draft. Um, and then it's your creativity that takes over after that.
yeah, sure, sure. So that brings me to my question on, uh, do you think people look at technical writing as something that is easy, or they look at it as something that is like a very difficult field? Why I ask is, lately I've seen a lot of people. I think I made a post on LinkedIn about it, where everybody is a technical writer. You see DevOps technical writing, UI UX technical writing, machine learning technical writer. You're wondering, is technical writing like a second option, like something easy that I can do? This is my main, but this is my second one. If you don't see me doing this, I'll be doing this, and it's always technical writing.
I think there is a misconception from people who are not technical writers that technical writing is easy. Um, I think there are professions where technical writing or writing is a component of what they do. Like I said before, we wear many hats, and that is not easy.
Yes, at all.
That is not easy at all. We're not just, we don't just make things pretty. We don't just format things. We don't, take other people's content and just stick it into a template and make it look good. There's a lot of thought involved crafting the content in a way that conforms to the user's point of view and where they want to go, what information they need,
Yeah,
when do they need it, how do they need it. um, Anticipating users' needs really is what we do.
yeah, that's a lot of work. All right. Yeah. So thank you so much for your time, for telling me more about your journey, how you started. Everybody I've spoken to didn't really start with technical writing. They moved from one field, then they found themselves. Some said accidentally,
Right.
some was out of condition. We want to do this, there's nobody to do this. Let me just do it for now. And that's how they started their journey.
I think people who become technical writers and for the most part, um, are helpers or teachers or are curious, want to learn and others want to help others to learn. And so I could see how people from many different fields and backgrounds come into technical writing. Um, they have that sort of attitude, and that's pervasive. Education is, you know, pervasive in society. So you're going to see a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, and I think that's what makes it really interesting because there's so many perspectives.
Yeah, so many areas. I was telling someone the other day that technical writing, because the field is more about software engineering, and I said technical writing is in all fields, every part of our life.
Yes.
Anything you're doing, you find it difficult and you try to write it to make it easy. That's technical writing.
Hmm.
So it's even in cooking. I want to write a little guide on how to cook a, a kind of different kind of food. That's technical writing, trying to
Oh,
make that complex idea easy.
yeah. Recipes are a classic example of sort of information architecture. It is that is technical writing, and I find myself rewriting recipes that I use to make it fit my own workflow. So
Sure.
yeah.
All right. So we have one last advice for the technical writers, the junior technical writers, and mainly for those that want to go into the field newly or transitioning from a new field to technical writing.
Uh, I think the advice that I would give them is network. You know, learn who's out there, who's teaching in the field, who's go to conferences, get link with people on connect with people on LinkedIn, really get involved in the conversations that happen because that's where the really interesting ideas kind of come in. Um, expose yourself to a lot of different points of view. Um, there's the Technical Writer Forum, I know on LinkedIn is one resource. We used to have the Society for Technical Communication. I think there's that's going to get restarted in a different way. um, but there's a number of different organizations out there that gives you that sense of community, so you don't feel quite so alone as a lone technical writer in a team. This is there's a lot of people out here. There's a huge field of technical writers, and we're really supportive of each other. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the advice and for this inspiring session. It's really
Thank
fun
you
talking with
for
you.
having me, and I'm honored to be included, in the
Yeah.
company of some of the true OGs of the field. So thank
Yeah, you're part of the OGs because
you.
in the year 2000, what was I even doing? I
I
think I
don't want
was
to know. I don't even want to know.
I think I was like this.
Yeah,
Maybe I was running around playing around with some stuff, with some toys.
yeah.
So
No,
so it's
myself,
an honor.
That's all.
Yeah, it's an honor because sharing about how you started, how you moved is something everybody wants to learn from because it's good for people to know people started technical writing before we started seeing all this awesome stuff. So
Yes.
thank you so much for the time.